Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching Morning Live. Now, Minister of Public Service and Administration, Ayanda Dlodlo, says that reports that government plans to retrench 30,000 public sector servants over the next 3 years are misleading. And Ms. Dlodlo has, however, confirmed that severance packages are being considered. Meanwhile, labour unions have vowed to mobilise against government's plan to retrench 30,000 public servants over the next 3 years. And the Congress of South African Trade Unions, that's COSATU, and their affiliates said that they would advise their members not to accept any exit package offers. And news of the job cuts as a cost-cutting measure surfaced last week after the African National Congress hosted a two-day Lekgotla. Now, to discuss this matter further, we're joined by Mava Scott, who is spokesperson for the Department of Public Service and Administration, as well as TJ van der Merwe, labour law specialist at the Confederations of Employers in South Africa. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having us.
Mava, let me start with you on a point of clarity. So the story came out, Mail and Guardian reported it on Friday, that an inside view from the Lekgotla that took place last week, in fact, stated that there would be perhaps a look at cutting 30,000 public sector jobs.
Yes, Sakina. Once again, we would like to distance ourselves from the report of the Mail and Guardian. In fact, we think that that report is out of order in the sense that it has thrown everybody into panic, both inside the public service and outside. You've just mentioned how the unions have been agitated by this. So it's unacceptable that people should preempt us like this as government. The fact of the matter is that the conversation about the reshaping of the public service is ongoing, and everybody is welcome to talk about it, is welcome to put their thoughts on the table, but not to create panic in the manner that the Mail and Guardian has done. So we would like to, so categorically, we would like to say that there are no plans to retrench 30,000 public servants. However, there is a conversation to reshape the public service, and this is going to take different forms.
But would that result in job cuts?
Look, we are exploring models. I mean, when you talk about reshaping an organization, it does not necessarily and automatically translate into a reduction in numbers. We're talking about trying to address inefficiencies in the system, managing operational costs, managing the public sector wage bill. And the minister, I think in May, in her budget speech, mentioned a number of initiatives that she's going to embark upon, lead a government process to try and manage the public sector wage bill. So the reshaping of the public service really should not be narrowly be focused on the reduction of numbers, but on a number of initiatives that government has announced in terms of what they want to do to increase productivity levels. Because as everybody knows, I mean, there is a concern that the amount of investment that we put as government into the service is not commensurate with the level of productivity. And this process really is geared towards dealing with those inefficiencies and making sure that the public service is productive and government is geared to deliver services to the people.
TJ, what's your take on this? Because as Mava also indicates, the public sector wage bill is a topic that we cannot run away from, because apart from people's view that it may be bloated, the fact of the matter is the government wage bill is almost 1/3 of our entire budget.
That is correct. Good morning. Just want to say good Monday morning, South Africa. Ma'am, thank you for having COFESA here. COFESA, when we have to talk to members about retrenchment, we take it very cautionally. And a lot of companies out there, in the public and the private sector, wage bill are huge. And it is the right of any company at any time to decide to retrench. But they can't microwave retrench. The Labour Court is very serious about that. There have to be proper consultations and there have to be proper lay-down procedures followed. And that is in Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act. We tell exactly. You can't just say that, okay, I've woken up now, we are bloated, we have got financial problems, we are going to retrench. No, it's a far cry. And like the gentleman said, he said that there will be consultations, and there need to be consultations, because the union's going to have a field day. And, ma'am, interesting enough, since the change to the Labour Relations Act recently, the unions can now ask for financials. And government needs to prove that if we cut this, if we cut the jobs, there's going to be a significant change when it comes to our financials. They've got to prove that financially it will be a viable option. Because any employer can at any time decide to reduce their employers and the amount of employers and the numbers and the figures, but it's got to be going with saving and helping out. And as he said, there has to be other avenues to be looked at, like retraining, restructuring, also executives taking cut in salaries and benefits, and some of our members have done that before. Also putting people on early retirement, outsourcing, not having temporary employment services, not having short-term contracts. All of that avenues needs to be looked at. And only then after consultation, and the consultation should be extensive, only after that one can then look at voluntary retrenchment packages.
What I thought was interesting was some people were saying that perhaps this is government's way of just testing the waters, Mava, where suddenly these leaks come out and you put it out there and see how the public actually responds to it. But given that there's been report of 4 billion rand that's already been set aside for this financial year to kickstart a process of perhaps getting people to take severance packages and the likes, what's your response to that?
Yes, look, the issue of severance packages, as you mentioned earlier, employer-initiated severance packages, is a matter that is being considered as part of a package, a full package of this process of reshaping the state, and that does not amount to retrenchment. We're also looking at options like offering people early retirement without attracting penalties, and the mistake of people is to conflate this whole process with retrenchment or the reduction in numbers. That is not what we're saying. So, certainly not from a DPSA point of view.
So why aren't we just being clear about what is actually going on? Does government need to reduce the headcount in the public service? Yes or no? And if so, if you are going to offer people severance packages, if you are going to offer them early retirement, why not just come out and state that out clearly up front?
I think the President did mention in his State of the Nation address that at some point we will have to have this conversation, that we have to look at the numbers. But to create a panic like the Mail and Guardian did is unacceptable. This process is a process that will be undertaken meticulously, and as the gentleman said, there has to be a process of consultation. We have the Public Service Bargaining Council. There is no way whatsoever that government will engage in a process or initiative that will impact the lives of people in the manner that is described in the Mail and Guardian without talking to our social partners. Of course, in the whole process, we will have to engage.
Fair enough. Coming back to this 4 billion rand that's been set aside, how many people are we looking at roughly that would take care of in terms of severance packages? Nobody
has crunched the numbers yet. That's why I'm saying I don't know where these figures are coming from. The DPSA, as a custodian of employment, in government does not have these figures, and it would be interesting to know where the figures are coming from. What is important from our side is that we have to engage in a conversation as the public service and as the country in terms of what type of public service do we need, what form, what content is it going to take, so that we are able to deliver services to people in a much more effective way.
And TJ, just from your side, with unions clearly against this, what chance does government actually have to go ahead and, follow through on this?
Absolutely. Well, it is in Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act that government or companies can decide at any time to do retrenchment. but it has to be a proper consultative process. The problem I'm having, this just couldn't come at the worst time. You know, we've had, and COFESA was very dismayed about this, because the South African unemployment rate climbed by 0.5%. It's now standing at 27.2%. And the biggest decline was in managers. So if there's going to be a voluntary retrenchment package, I'm scared that if it's not properly consulted, it's going to be a brain drain. And you're going to lose qualified people with years of experience, because the younger market will not take. And then also, Eskom announced 0% or restructuring, but since then they have made strides into settling that dispute. Implats said that they're going to shed 13,000 jobs in the next 2 years. Then we've got the Concord ruling on labour brokers, temporary employment services. Between 600,000 and 800,000 people are affected there as well. So the timing was not good. But to say that Section 189 gives government and any other public entity the right to retrench, but there's got to be a proper process to be followed, and that proper process is consultation.
Well, TJ van der Merwe, Mava Scott, thanks so much for stopping by this morning. And this, no doubt, is a conversation that will be ongoing. But as always, we want to hear your views, so you can actually tweet us at Morning Live using the hashtag Morning Live. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's time for the news.